The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing acquisition reports in my corner office overlooking downtown. My assistant had stepped out for coffee, so I answered the unknown number myself. "Is this Sophia Martinez?" The voice was professional but slightly uncomfortable. "Speaking. This is Jennifer Walsh from Elegant Affairs Event Planning. I'm handling your sister Isabella's wedding at the Grand Meridian Estate." She paused, clearly struggling with what came next. "I'm calling because, well, your parents contacted me yesterday. They said you wouldn't be attending because you can't afford the dress code requirements." I set down my pen and leaned back in my leather chair. Through my floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the construction crew working on my latest hotel development. "I'm sorry, what exactly did they say?" "They mentioned the wedding has a strict formal dress code, cocktail attire minimum $500, and they felt it would be financially difficult for you to meet those standards." Jennifer's voice grew smaller with each word. "They asked me to call and explain that maybe it would be better if you just sent your congratulations instead of attending." I couldn't help but laugh. Not the bitter laugh of someone who'd been hurt, but genuine amusement at the sheer irony of the situation. "Jennifer, can you do me a favor?" "Of course. Tell my parents I'll definitely be there. In fact, I'll be wearing something that definitely meets the dress code." After hanging up, I sat in the silence of my office, looking at the framed photo on my desk. Isabella and me as kids, building sandcastles during one of our family vacations to Martha's Vineyard. Back when we were close. Back before my parents decided I was the family disappointment. The transformation hadn't happened overnight. After graduating from Stanford with my MBA, I'd spent 3 years working 18-hour days as an investment analyst, living in a studio apartment and saving every penny. My parents constantly asked when I'd get a real job, like Isabella, who'd landed a marketing position at their friend's company right out of college. What they didn't know was that I'd been quietly building something. Those long nights weren't just about crunching numbers for other people's deals. I was learning, analyzing, and waiting for the right opportunities. My first acquisition was a small commercial property in the arts district that everyone thought was worthless. I bought it for $200,000 using every dollar I'd saved, plus a loan that terrified me. Within 2 years, that area became the hottest spot in the city. I sold it for $1.2 million. Then came the hotel chain. 3 rundown properties that I bought, renovated, and turned into boutique hotels. Then a tech startup that I funded and grew from 5 employees to 200. Then real estate developments, a restaurant group, and eventually Meridian Holdings, my investment company that now managed a portfolio worth $4.2 billion. Through it all, my family saw what I wanted them to see. Their struggling daughter who couldn't afford designer clothes or fancy vacations. I drove a modest Honda, lived in a simple 2-bedroom apartment, and wore clothes from department stores. Not because I had to, but because it served my purposes. I wanted to build something real before announcing it to the world. Isabella's engagement 6 months ago had been the beginning of the end of my anonymity. When she announced her dream wedding at the Grand Meridian Estate, the most prestigious venue in the state, I'd made a decision. I called my real estate team that afternoon. "Marcus, I need you to make an offer on the Grand Meridian Estate. Full property, not just a booking. The entire estate. Sophia, that property isn't even on the market. The Wellington family has owned it for generations. Everything has a price. Find out what theirs is." It took 6 weeks of negotiations, but the Wellingtons were drowning in debt from their son's gambling problems. They needed $15 million quickly and quietly. I offered $18 million cash, closed in 10 days, no inspections. The paperwork was finalized on a Friday. Isabella's wedding was scheduled for Saturday 3 weeks later. I spent the following weeks making subtle improvements to the property. New security systems, updated kitchen facilities, and enhanced landscaping. Nothing that would affect Isabella's wedding plans, but everything that would establish my ownership clearly. Now, sitting in my office after Jennifer's call, I opened my laptop and sent a message to the estate's head of security. "David, this is Sophia Martinez, the new owner. For the wedding this Saturday, I'll be arriving around 2 p.m. Please have the master key ready for me." The week passed quickly. I found the perfect dress, a custom Valentino gown that cost more than most people's cars. Deep navy blue with subtle silver threading, elegant but not flashy. I wanted to look successful, not ostentatious. Saturday morning, I drove to the estate in my Honda. No need to change vehicles yet, that revelation could wait. The Grand Meridian Estate was spectacular. Rolling hills, perfectly manicured gardens, and a main building that looked like something from a European castle. Valet attendants in crisp uniforms directed guests to parking areas, while servers in black and white uniforms circulated with champagne. I parked and walked toward the main entrance, admiring the property I now owned. The guest check-in was handled by Jennifer's team at an elegant table near the entrance. "Name please?" asked a young woman with a clipboard. "Sophia Martinez." She scanned her list then looked up with confusion. "I'm sorry, I don't see you on the guest list. There might be some confusion. Could you check with Jennifer Walsh?" Jennifer appeared within minutes, looking flustered. "Sophia, I'm so glad you decided to come. Let me add you to the list right away." She scribbled my name quickly. "You look absolutely stunning, by the way. That dress is gorgeous." "Thank you. Everything looks beautiful here." "Oh, this place is incredible. The Wellingtons have owned it for generations, though I heard rumors they recently sold it. Some mysterious buyer. But whoever it is has excellent taste. They've made some lovely improvements." I smiled. "I'm sure they do." The ceremony was being held in the garden pavilion, with the reception in the grand ballroom. I found a seat in the back, wanting to observe before making my presence known to my family. Isabella looked radiant in her flowing white gown, walking down the aisle toward her fiancé Michael. My parents sat in the front row, my father in his best suit, my mother in a dress I recognized as the one she'd worn to my cousin's wedding last year. The ceremony was beautiful, though I noticed my parents kept glancing around, probably looking for me and wondering if I'd actually show up. During the cocktail hour, I mingled with other guests, most of whom I hadn't seen in years. Extended family, Isabella's college friends, Michael's relatives. A few people recognized me and made small talk about what I'd been doing with my life. "Oh, Sophia. I haven't seen you in ages," said my Aunt Carmen. "Your mother mentioned you're working in finance now?" "Something like that." "Well, you look wonderful. That dress is stunning, very expensive looking." Before I could respond, I heard my mother's voice behind me. "Sophia? I can't believe you actually came." I turned to face Maria Martinez, my mother, who was approaching with my father Roberto close behind. Both looked genuinely surprised to see me. "Hello, Mom. Dad." I hugged them both, noting how they glanced at my dress with obvious confusion. "You look..." My mother paused, clearly trying to process what she was seeing. "Where did you get that dress?" "I bought it for the occasion." "You said the dress code was important." My father frowned. "Sophia, that dress looks very expensive. Please tell me you didn't go into debt for this wedding." "Don't worry about my finances, Dad." "But we worry about you," my mother said, lowering her voice. "Living in that tiny apartment, driving that old car. We just want you to be realistic about money." Before I could respond, the wedding coordinator appeared at my side. "Excuse me, are you Sophia Martinez?" "Yes. The head of security needs to speak with you. Something about the keys." My parents looked confused as a distinguished man in a dark suit approached our group. "Ms. Martinez? I'm David Chin, head of security for the estate. I have the master key you requested." He held out an elegant silver key on a custom keychain. I took the key while my parents stared in bewilderment. "Thank you, David. Everything looks perfect today." "Thank you, ma'am. If you need anything else, just let me know." As David walked away, my parents stood frozen, staring at the key in my hand. "Sophia," my father's voice was barely a whisper. "Why does the head of security have keys for you?" I looked at the key, then at my parents' confused faces. Around us, the cocktail hour continued with guests chatting and laughing, unaware of the drama unfolding. "Because 3 weeks ago I bought this place." My mother's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the stone patio. "You what?" "I purchased the Grand Meridian estate. Isabella's wedding is being held at my property." My father grabbed my arm. "Sophia, this isn't funny. This place is worth millions. 18 million to be exact. That's what I paid for it." "But, how? Where would you get that kind of money?" Other guests were starting to notice the commotion. I could see Isabella and Michael in the distance, still taking photos but glancing our way with concern. "The same place I got the money for everything else I've been building over the past 5 years. My investment company, Meridian Holdings." My mother's face had gone completely pale. "Investment company? I manage a portfolio worth $4.2 billion. This estate is actually one of my smaller acquisitions." My father's voice was hollow. "But you live in that apartment. You drive that old car. Because I chose to. Because I wanted to build something real before announcing it to the world. And because I wanted to see who would support me when they thought I had nothing. The silence stretched between us as my parents processed what I'd just told them. Around us, the party continued, but I could see other family members starting to notice our intense conversation. You've been lying to us for years? My mother's voice was a mixture of hurt and anger. I've been private about my success. There's a difference. But why? Why would you let us think you were struggling? I looked at both of them, these people who'd raised me but never quite understood me. Because I wanted to know who you really were. When you thought I was poor, when you thought I was a failure, how did you treat me? My father stepped back as if I'd slapped him. We never said you were a failure. You told the wedding planner I couldn't afford to come to my own sister's wedding. You've spent 5 years asking when I'd get a real job like Isabella. You've made comments about my apartment, my car, my clothes. You've treated me like the family disappointment. We were trying to motivate you, my mother said weakly. No, you were embarrassed by me. And now you're embarrassed because you realize you completely misjudged your own daughter. Isabella suddenly appeared at our side, still in her wedding dress but looking concerned. What's going on? People are staring. I looked at my sister, beautiful in her white gown, surrounded by the elegance of the estate I'd purchased for her special day. Isabella, congratulations on your wedding. Everything looks perfect. Thank you, but seriously, what's happening? Mom looks like she's seen a ghost. I was just telling Mom and Dad that I own this place now. Isabella laughed. Very funny, Sophia. But seriously, what's wrong? I held up the master key. I bought the Grand Meridian estate 3 weeks ago. Your wedding is being held at my property. Isabella's smile faded as she looked from the key to my parents' shocked faces to my calm expression. You're serious. Completely serious. But, how is that possible? Because I own an investment company worth over $4 billion. Isabella stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly started laughing. Not the reaction I'd expected. Of course you do. Of course my little sister, who I thought was barely scraping by, is actually richer than all of us combined. She shook her head in amazement. You know what? This is actually perfect. Perfect. Do you know how many times Mom and Dad have told me I should help you? How many times they've suggested you might need money? And here you are, literally hosting my wedding at your own estate. Our parents still looked shell-shocked. Other family members were starting to gather around us, sensing drama. Isabella, we should probably continue this conversation later, I said. This is your day. No, this is perfect timing. Isabella turned to face our parents. Mom, Dad, remember last week when you said Sophia probably couldn't afford to come because of the dress code? When you actually called her wedding planner to uninvite her. We didn't uninvite her, my father protested. We just suggested. You suggested she was too poor to attend her own sister's wedding. At the venue she owns. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in our growing circle of family members. I could see my Aunt Carmen, my Uncle Jorge, and several cousins listening with fascination. My mother found her voice again. Sophia, if you have all this money, why haven't you helped the family? Your father's been struggling with the restaurant. This was the moment I'd been dreading and anticipating for years. Help the family how, Mom? By giving money to people who think I'm a failure? By supporting a father who's never once asked how I'm doing, only when I'll get a better job. But we're family, my father said. Yes, we are. And family should support each other through everything. Not just when it's convenient or profitable. Isabella stepped closer to me. Sophia, I need to apologize. I've been just as guilty as them. I've made jokes about your lifestyle, your apartment. I never really tried to understand what you were building. I looked at my sister, seeing genuine regret in her eyes. Isabella, you have nothing to apologize for. You've always been kind to me, even when you didn't understand my choices. But I could have defended you more. I could have told Mom and Dad to stop making those comments. Our conversation was interrupted by Michael, Isabella's new husband, approaching with a confused expression. Babe, the venue coordinator wants to know if we need to sign any additional paperwork about the property transfer? Property transfer? My father asked. I sighed. I may have made some changes to the booking agreement. What kind of changes? Isabella asked. Well, since I own the property now, I've upgraded your honeymoon suite to the master residence, added the private chef service for the entire weekend, and included full use of the spa facilities. Isabella's eyes widened. Sophia, that must have cost. It's my wedding gift to you. Both of you. Michael looked completely lost. I'm sorry, but did someone just say you own this place? Michael, meet my sister Sophia. Apparently she's a billionaire who just bought our wedding venue. Michael blinked several times. I'm sorry, what? The situation was becoming almost comical. Here we were at one of the most elegant weddings I'd ever attended, and the bride was explaining to her new husband that her supposedly poor sister actually owned the entire estate. Look, I said, addressing the growing group of family members. I know this is confusing and probably feels like some kind of betrayal, but I want everyone to understand something. I never lied about anything. I just didn't advertise my success. My cousin Diego stepped forward. Sophia, are you saying you've been secretly rich this whole time? I'm saying I've been building a business empire while everyone assumed I was failing because I didn't drive a luxury car or live in a mansion. But why keep it secret? Asked my Aunt Carmen. I looked around at all these faces, family members who'd known me my entire life but never really seen me. Because I wanted to know who would love me when they thought I had nothing to offer. The weight of that statement settled over the group. Even the party noise around us seemed to fade. My mother stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Sophia, we've always loved you. Have you? Because it's felt like you've been disappointed in me for years. Like you've been waiting for me to become someone different. We just wanted you to be successful. I am successful. I've been successful for years. But you couldn't see it because it didn't look like your definition of success. Isabella suddenly grabbed my hand. Sophia, I need to ask you something and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. Did you buy this place just for my wedding? I hesitated, then decided on complete honesty. Partly. When you told me this was your dream venue, I wanted to make sure your day was perfect. But I also wanted to make a point. What point? That the daughter you've all been treating like a charity case actually has the power to make your dreams come true. The silence that followed was broken by slow clapping. We all turned to see David, the head of security, approaching with a small group of staff members. Excuse me, Ms. Martinez, David said. The staff wanted to express their gratitude. When the Wellingtons owned this place, we were constantly worried about layoffs and budget cuts. Your management style has been completely different. How so? Isabella asked. David looked at me for permission to continue. I nodded. Ms. Martinez gave everyone a 20% raise, improved our health benefits and set up a college fund for our children. She's also invested in updating all our equipment and facilities. I could see the surprise on my family's faces. This wasn't just about money, it was about how I chose to use it. That's really wonderful, my mother said softly. The point is, I said, I've been successful in ways that matter. Not just financially but in how I treat people, how I build things, how I make decisions. But none of you saw that because you were too focused on the external markers of success. My father, who had been quiet for several minutes, finally spoke up. Sophia, I owe you an apology. We all do. Dad. No, let me finish. You're right. We've been judging you based on superficial things. We've been treating you like you needed our help instead of recognizing that you were building something amazing. Isabella squeezed my hand. Sophia, can I ask you to do something for me? Anything. Can you forgive us? Not because we deserve it but because I want my kids to know their amazing aunt. I want them to learn from you. I looked at my sister, radiant in her wedding dress, asking for forgiveness at what should be the happiest moment of her life. Then I looked at my parents, both of them looking older and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen them. Of course I forgive you. You're my family. The group hug that followed was interrupted by the wedding coordinator announcing that dinner was about to be served. As we walked toward the grand ballroom, Isabella linked her arm through mine. So, what other surprises do you have? Do you own a private jet too? I grinned. Actually. Oh my God, you do. I might have arranged for you and Michael to fly to Tuscany tomorrow in something a little nicer than commercial. Sophia Martinez. Isabella stopped walking and stared at me. You bought us a honeymoon in Italy. I bought you a villa in Tuscany. The honeymoon is just the first visit. Isabella's jaw dropped. You bought us a villa? Consider it a wedding present that keeps giving. Michael, who had been quietly processing everything, finally found his voice. Sophia, I don't even know how to begin thanking you. By taking care of my sister and letting me be part of your lives. The real part, not the version you thought you knew. As we entered the ballroom, I saw the estate in its full glory. Crystal chandeliers, elegant table settings, and views of the gardens through floor-to-ceiling windows. It was everything Isabella had dreamed of, and now it was hers to enjoy forever. During dinner, my father stood up to give a toast. "I want to say something about my daughter Sophia," he began, his voice carrying across the room. "For years I thought I knew who she was. I thought I understood her choices and her life. Tonight, I learned that I was wrong about everything." He paused, looking directly at me. "Sophia has built something extraordinary, not just in business but in character. She's generous, thoughtful, and wise in ways I'm only beginning to understand. And she's done it all while showing grace to a family that didn't always show grace to her." The applause was warm and genuine. As I looked around the room, at Isabella glowing with happiness, at my parents looking proud, at extended family members who were seeing me with new eyes, I realized something important. The money had never been the real goal. The business empire, the properties, the investments, they were all just tools. The real goal had been to build something that mattered, to create value, to make a difference. And sometimes, that meant revealing who you really are at exactly the right moment. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Isabella found me on the terrace overlooking the gardens. "Sophia, I have to ask. What happens now?" "What do you mean?" "With us. With the family. Does everything change?" I considered her question. "Some things will change. I'll probably be more open about my business activities. I might upgrade from the Honda." We both laughed. "But the important things won't change." "Like what?" "Like the fact that you're my sister and I love you. Like the fact that family matters more than money. Like the fact that I want to be part of your life and watch your kids grow up in that villa in Tuscany." Isabella hugged me tightly. "I'm so proud of you. And I'm sorry it took me so long to really see you. You see me now. That's what matters." As I drove home that night in my modest Honda, I thought about the conversation I'd had with my parents before leaving. They'd asked if they could visit my real apartment sometime, the one I'd been hiding from them. I told them I'd actually been looking at houses and might be ready to live somewhere that reflected my actual financial situation. "Maybe you could help me look," I'd suggested to my mother. "I'd love that," she'd replied, tears in her eyes. Change was coming, but it would be the right kind of change. The kind built on honesty, respect, and real understanding. My phone buzzed with a text from Isabella. "Thank you for the most perfect wedding day ever. Can't wait to see the villa tomorrow. Love you, sis." I smiled and typed back, "Love you too. Enjoy Tuscany. Try not to be too shocked when you see the pool." Her response was immediate. "There's a pool." Some secrets, I decided, were worth keeping just a little bit longer. The next morning, I would start the process of stepping out of the shadows I'd been hiding in for 5 years. I'd introduce my family to the real Sophia Martinez, not the struggling daughter they'd been disappointed in, but not the mysterious billionaire who owned everything either. Just me. Someone who'd learned that true success wasn't about proving people wrong, but about building something so strong and real that their opinions stopped mattering. And sometimes, the best revenge was simply living well enough to buy your sister her dream wedding venue as a surprise gift. As I pulled into my apartment complex that night, I looked up at my simple 2-bedroom unit and smiled. Tomorrow I'd start looking at houses. Real houses with gardens and guest rooms and space for the family dinners I hoped we'd start having again. But tonight I was content to sit in my modest apartment, wearing a custom Valentino gown, and remember the look on my parents' faces when the head of security handed me the keys to an $18 million estate. Sometimes the best moments in life are the ones that completely rewrite everyone's understanding of who you really are.